Well, it finally let me down. After so many years of driving classic cars, I was finally left stranded. Hey everybody, welcome back to Auto Anatomy. I'm Sean. Thank you for joining us. Today we're back working on the Corvair. Now, in the last video you saw that we upgraded the rear suspension, put new adjustable lower control arms, and I told you that we're going to make a big ignition upgrade on the car. Now this was not planned, but a few weeks ago I was out driving the car and I was actually just going to run and pick up some lunch for my wife, and got about a mile from the house, it sputtered and just stopped. I was able to coast into a parking lot, called my wife, she picked me up, and just left the car there overnight. Now I really thought that this thing had like a plugged fuel filter because I'd filled up the tank maybe a day earlier and, you know, probably just got some sand in it or something like that. So went back the next day, new fuel filter, pulled the carbs off, completely clean, fuel filter was fine. Started messing around with it and noticed that spark was pretty intermittent. Sometimes it would have a spark, but it didn't really look like it was a great spark. So I went down to my local O'Reilly and picked up a new coil as well as another points and condenser. Didn't think that that was going to be it because the points and condenser were basically brand new. I put them on right when the car was fired up for the first time. But just again, for the sake of completion, just went ahead and did it. Put it on, car fired up. So I am done with points on this car. Now I can already see the comments are going to be, oh, but you know, with an electronic distributor, if you break down, you're done. But with a points distributor, you can just toss another set in the glove box and, you know, in a few minutes, you're back up and running. And the truth is, you're probably right. You know, with points, you can get up and running pretty quickly. But electronic ignitions have been out for about 50 years now and they're pretty darn reliable, so I'm going to take my chances. So today we're going to do a complete ignition replacement, every bit of it. Distributor, cap, rotor, coil, wires, plugs, the whole thing. And we're going to upgrade to a brand new Pertronix ignition distributor. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you ring that bell, click the subscribe button, and leave a comment below on what you'd like to see on future videos. Let's get started working on this Corvair. I can't wait to tear into the ignition system. Before we start tearing into anything, I want to set the engine on top dead center. So we'll rotate the engine around until the pointer, and I'll rotate around here in just a second so you can see it, lines up with the 0. We'll pop the cap off, make sure that it's pointing at the number 1 cylinder, so we'll know we're top dead center on the number 1, and then we can start pulling distributor, plugs, wires, all that jazz off. Alright, you can see the timing pointer here, and it's painted on this balancer. Lined up with 0, we're pointed at the number 1 cylinder, so now I feel good that we can pull the distributor out knowing where we are. Alright, so the entire ignition system's out of the car. I'm going to take a look at the plugs because if you look on the passenger side, boy, those are like pig rich. And on the driver's side, they actually look pretty decent. So this carburetor is not working very well for some reason. So I'm going to have to take that one apart and check the float level, most likely. On Corvair carbs, that seems to be like a really sticky issue. So we'll address all that once we get the new ignition system in. So I picked up this Pertronix ignition system from Summit, and this is a complete ready to run unit with the Pertronix Ignitor II system already installed. It's just a simple 2-wire, hooks up just like the original. So you've got, well, close to the original. You've got black that goes to the negative, red that goes to the positive side of the coil, and then we need to hook up a constant 12 volts to the coil rather than the regulated like 9 volts that the original system has. That's also going to help our 40,000 volt coil get the maximum amount of spark that it can. So the first thing to do is I want to put the distributor in only just to plug the hole and make sure it's all lining up and fitting before I start modifying anything else. Now if you look at the end of the distributor here, the oil pump is engaged by the bottom of the distributor shaft, and it looks like a slot head screwdriver. So what we'll need to do is pop this cap off and then place the distributor in roughly the right position, and then most likely have to rotate the oil pump drive down in the engine so that it's going to line up with the distributor, so that when we stab it in place, we're pointed to number 1 and that the oil pump drive is engaged in the engine. So the distributor dropped right in, and it is awfully close right here where it meets the engine tin. I think, unfortunately, I'm just gonna have to clearance this just a little bit. Now, I mean, it spins freely, but I'd feel a little bit better if I could just take, you know, a few thousandths more room back there. So I'm gonna pull the distributor back out and then just massage the upper tin just a little bit in order to get this to fit. Just the tiniest bit of persuasion, and now I've got about 1/8 of an inch of gap down there. I feel a whole lot better about that. Now, I just need to adjust the distributor, get it in place, and get it locked down. Okay, got the distributor stabbed in, and the rotor is pointed to roughly number 1 here. So let me get cap in place. All right, so now that we've got the distributor in place, need to put the coil, the plugs, and the wires in, and then we've got to do a bypass to allow the distributor and the coil to get a full 12 volts. The ignition system is installed now, got the distributor in place, got all new plugs in it, new wires, got the coil mounted, need to tighten up the nuts here on the coil. The next thing is to give this a full 12 volts. Now, here is the power wire that feeds the coil. So this is coming from the starter. Now it gives it a full 12 volts when the engine is cranking, but as soon as you drop or switch the key back to the run position, it drops down to like 9 volts. And this wire here, I don't know if you can really make it out, the one that's braided, that is a resistor wire, and it's going to drop the voltage. So what we're going to do is, I'm following the instructions from Performance Corvair's, perfvairs.com, and basically we're going to create a jumper to go from here to here so that the coil gets a full 12 volts, not only when the key is in the crank position, but also when the key's in the run position. If you look on their website, they've got a full detailed instructions on how to do it, you know, the part numbers for the housings to order and everything like that. I've got all of that stuff here. Got some from Clark's Corvair, and we're just going to make a little jumper wire and give this thing 12 volts, and then we should be ready to crank this guy up and time it. Fast forward about a week, I've had a few things happen since I initially put in the ignition system. As I was putting the passenger side carburetor back on and tightening the nuts to hold the carb in place, I noticed it started to pull the threads out of the head. So I had to order a 5/16 helicoil kit, and that took a little bit of time to come in, but I got the helicoil in the head and got the carburetor bolted down solid. Now I've just set like a very rudimentary base timing, kind of guesstimating where about 14 degrees is. It's got new plugs, new wires. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Okay, fired right up. It sounds a little bit smoother. Let me go see how it's running. It looks like it's running okay. I don't know if you can hear this. It still sounds like it's got a little bit of a misfire, and I've got some squeak from that fan bearing. We'll let it warm up and then go take it for a test drive. All right, so the new ignition system's in. I went ahead and did a quick tune-up, reset everything to factory specs, got the RPM, the idle RPM set, and we're gonna go take it for a test drive. So let's see what happens. Don't want to hit the 52. So the first thing I noticed is that throttle response is actually a little bit improved. It's a little crisper feeling. It's still got a misfire, and for the life of me, I cannot figure out what is going on with this thing. I've been through it more times than I can count. When looking at the spark plugs, when I pulled the old plugs out, the driver side looked really good. The passenger side was pretty rich. But what doesn't make sense is the driver side requires about an extra turn out on the idle mixture screw compared to the passenger side. So you would think that the driver side would be rich and the passenger side would be fine, but it's not. It's the other way around. And I've resynced the carbs multiple times. They are absolutely in sync. I've measured them. They are opening the same. Everything is identical with them side to side. So I don't really have a good sense of what's going on yet, but for you, what that means is that's probably going to be another video coming out on the Corvair. Speaking of future videos, I've got a ton of parts that have just showed up for this car. We're going to continue working on it, continue making it better, and keep driving it, enjoying it in the process. Thank you so much for watching. If you are not subscribed, take 2 seconds, click that subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when new videos come out. Leave a comment below about what you'd like to see on future videos, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. God bless.